Okay, we are going to call the meeting to order. It's now 10 o'clock. We'll start with roll call. All three districts are present. Notice the meeting was properly posted on May 13th of 2024. Start with number 1, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the minutes of April 23rd.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding the selection of the May 2024 BOCC Employees of the Month. Karen Kent.
Good morning. We had 4 nominations this month. I sent you by email if you want to review them, and I have placed them on there. We need to pick 2. We have 4 options this month.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we receive Karen's document first.
Okay. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I would move C and D.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was that C and B?
C and D.
D.
Yeah, those were my choices as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Number 4 is discussion and possible, number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and the status report related to the planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's ARPA funding allocation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We do have slides. Yes, ma'am. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So it looks like a long agenda, but it's really not that long. We're going to run through our fund overview projects on the county side and on the community side. We're going to talk a little bit about our community engagement event with the ripple mapping. It went so well. And then we'll talk a little bit about the work plan for the next couple of weeks and then the community application update. So here is your ongoing fund status. So your projects approved has actually increased. It was at 82. Now it's at 84. So that's accounting for the District 3 projects that went in, but it's also accounting for the reduction of the New Day project as well. So that's why it's not 85, it's 84 because there were 3 new projects, but we did roll one out. So that's how you get to that number. Your authorized number has gone down just slightly, but that is because it is the funds that have rolled back into the 1415 account for the HVAC system that will be reobligated at another time. You have 49 projects that are fully expended, which is an increase from 47. So you have 2 projects that have reached that fully expended mark. Your obligated number is at 60.3 now. It was at 60, so you're moving forward in those ways. You know about your 5.7 amount, your community fund. So each of you have 1,086,000 about. And then year to date, you have expended 51 million. This is just your general project update. Like I said, your expended number at 100% has gone from 47 to 49. Less than 50% expended is at 6. More than 50% expended is at 19. And then 0% expended is 10. And some of that is like your smaller projects that will fill out at one time. And then also includes the behavioral health center and things like that. Are there any questions about fund status before we jump into talking a little bit about county projects? Awesome. All right. So you have utilized about 31% of county funds. So out of the 100 and about $40 million that have gone straight into county projects, you have paid out 43.6. That's not accounting for your community projects. That's a separate metric, but that gives you that. As we were talking about, specific to county, you have 5 projects that are completed 50% or more, 32 completed projects, which is awesome. 18 completed less than 50%, and 1 not started. So we're thinking about your behavioral health center there. These highlights are all of the items that are actually going to be on the budget board agenda this week. So these are things that both P&G and BOCC have already moved forward with, but they will be on budget board this week to start moving the funds around. So the sheriff's camera system is closed out, and that $53 will come back into the 1415 account. The HVAC dollars are coming back into that main pot, which is going to leave you with a little bit shy of $2 million in the 1415 account. The front entrance is getting an increase of almost $700,000 so they can continue working. And then your share of dollars are going to be rolled back into your general fund. And then with the COVID testing from the Juvenile Bureau, those dollars are being moved around so that they can purchase their last vehicle. And then the remaining amount goes into 1415. So none of that's necessarily new, but will be on Thursday's budget board. Are there any questions about county projects before we jump into community? Awesome. All right. So jumping into the community, you have so far had 8.6 million that has been authorized for the community. Paid out, you've done 7.9. So that means that is including all of your subrecipients that were low risk, and then some of your subrecipients that have already started to draw down if they were medium or high risk. So as a reminder, if you're medium or high risk, they have to submit their invoicing to us, and then it comes through an approval process and then is submitted to the county for payment. So that's why it's not an equal number, because not everyone was just granted their dollars up front. But they're doing a great job of meeting their quarterly metrics and sending us the information that's necessary. So we expect that to jump by the end of this year, absolutely. So of that amount, 88% of your total funds have been released. You have 25 total projects, so that's an increase because we do have the 3 new District 3 projects. Projects with an obligation, you have 21, and then 3 projects not finalized. Again, that's your new projects. We've done the risk assessment on them. We are collecting their budget information, and the subrecipient agreement should be in hand in the next couple of weeks. We did do our ripple effect mapping workshop, and I know Jessica got to join us, and it was so fun. It was awesome. We had a lot of engagement. People were really excited about it, and we were able to see things in a very different light that we might not have always been thinking about. So it went extremely well. We did do all of our in-person trainings for the community applicants, and we are answering questions all day, every day that we're getting emailed. So we definitely have applications rolling in. We have about 40 or so that have come in, maybe 45 already, anticipating a big jump in the last week of applications, because that's typically how we saw it in the last round as well. And then we did publish that guidebook, and we've been sharing it around when people have questions. The portal will close on the 30th. As a reminder, we are doing the eligibility assessments as they come in, but anticipating that large jump in that last week. This is just a quick visual reminder of the steps that are involved with your subrecipient management. So they send us their information, we do that initial assessment, and then we start doing the subrecipient versus beneficiary analysis. So there's like a checklist we have to go through to ensure, are you a subrecipient, are you a beneficiary, or a contractor? Then we go through the risk assessment. We put the draft contract in place, your subrecipient agreement. It goes to the DA's office. Once that's approved, then we start collecting their EFT information, send it to accounts payable, and then we get all of the contracts signed, the subrecipient signed as well, and then they start the quarterly reporting process as well as the site visit process. So as we're about to jump into this, just a quick reminder that it's multi-stepped and can move a little bit slow. When we were on site the last time, so like we said, we like to do little updates when we get to do our site visit. So when we were on site last time, we did a site visit for Restore OKC, which I believe was a District 1 project. So they're really focused on the restoration of health, environment, and equity in neighborhoods in Northeast Oklahoma. They are operating a grocery store. They operate a farmer's market that's coming up, and they have all sorts of animals and things like that on site as well. They were awarded $250,000. We did their desk review last month on the 8th. And they did purchase a tractor. That's why you're seeing all these lovely tractor photos. They purchased a tractor with their ARPA funds so that they could go ahead and continue to expand on their ability to grow products. So everything that's in their grocery store that is purchasable is grown on site. And their mission behind that is that they have done a lot of studying and they feel that giving people the power to purchase is beneficial versus just granting people their items. But they are able to operate that grocery store, and they are soon creating a system as well where they will be able to do deliveries of small amounts of goods for individuals who can't afford the grocery store. So they are doing really, really well. And then we'll jump into our ripple mapping. So of your individuals, we had 20 total organizations. You have 22, so that's a really good amount that showed up. Minus one of those being New Day Recovery, which is okay because we had canceled that contract. So of that, we had 32 total participants in those 20 organizations, and it represented 8.65 of the community funds. The event went really, really well. So what we were doing is we had everyone come in and did small breakout groups of about 3 or 4 people, and they were talking about their programs and seeing where they would connect with the other programs. We asked them to meet with people they haven't met with before, they don't normally work with, and not someone else from their organization. And then they were able to go forth after they're having their small group discussions. We brought everybody back into the big room and said, now let's talk about how these things tie together. And it was very interesting the way people are thinking about these projects and the positive impacts in ways that we definitely hadn't thought about. As a good example, the Oklahoma State Fair is using their dollars for infrastructure, for lighting replacement throughout the facility. And somebody made a really great point that day about the ability to have those lights now enhancing individuals that have visual impairments and increasing their ability to work through the facility and things like that because you have that increased lighting. So it's really cool to see the way people are thinking about these dollars outside of, oh, they just bought lights, which is still totally fine. But there are multiple steps to that are really impacting the community in a positive way. So it went super well. In your annual report, we will have a word blob map of all of the ripples that were created. There's a ton. So that will go in the annual report as well. But it went awesome. It was very cool. This is just our general feedback from the multiple sessions that we did from online and in person. We always try and collect feedback from individuals on how they think that they went, if they thought it was impactful and helped them understand or not. The couple that disagreed, again, we reached out to them, have not heard back, but wanted to make sure that we addressed any of their questions that they might have. But overall, pretty positive feedback, which is very exciting. So this is our work plan. You guys have seen this already, so I won't spend too much time on it. But just quick reminders that we're starting that subrecipient process again. So we've got to go through the multiple 3 checklists, the subrecipient versus beneficiary, your risk assessment, and then creating the actual agreement. We will continue to analyze projects for eligibility as they come in, but again, expecting that large influx in the last week or so. We are doing another compliance webinar in June, so we're preparing for the compliance webinar as well. And then thinking through, as we start getting new subrecipients, what our touch points with that might look like. We're thinking about maybe bi-weekly office hours or doing stuff while we're on site as well, so individuals have a good line of access to us as they're trying to get through that new process. Again, you guys have seen this, so I won't walk through it, but we've got a lot of infrastructure projects that are going to come through this month that are going to be either bid out or have our final numbers on. So lots of movement on infrastructure projects. We're expecting elevators and some other things to come through this month. So that's very exciting as well. We'll be able to get those moving. And then for compliance and reporting, we did submit your quarterly report. That's in the portal. And then we have been reviewing compliance packets as they come in. Most recently was the juvenile justice car purchase. We reviewed that packet and approved it, and then some changes to the first floor annex project. So we've made those approvals as well. And this just kind of gives you a visual of the next few months. So we're here, we're in May, we're reviewing applications as they're submitted. June is extremely busy. We'll be doing community portal review. We'll be prepping for the annual report, which we're already doing, but an ongoing preparation for that as well. And then again, that compliance webinar that's occurring on the 6th in June. So June is a rather heavy month. And then we jump into July. While we're on site, we have multiple desk reviews and site visits that will occur. And that's what you're seeing throughout all of these dark blue-ish colors are your site reviews and desk reviews that we'll be doing for your subrecipients in the next few months. So this is just breaking that down from that larger to looking at the next few months. So the portal is going through the submission and closeout process. You do have a county holiday in there. Memorial Day is coming through. And then we will in June be prepping all of the applications for review and finalizing any subrecipients at that point. So of that portal, this number is outdated because it's already been a few days. That says 25 plus, which is technically true, but it's about 45 plus at this point. That number for the organizations that have served all districts has also increased. When we share the information with you, you will be able to sort by the EC code. You will be able to sort by the district and the fund amount that's being requested. Significantly more than the $8.5 million number that has been requested at this point as well. But the EC remains true that that is the most commonly used code of the assistance to nonprofits. But again, we've been sharing application guidebooks. We did do the application webinars. We did do an in-person training, and we are consistently responding to emails as they come in. And then just as a reminder, this is your most important number for the year. This is what you have obligated, and then we need to get everything else obligated by the end of this year. But we are all well on track with getting those pieces moving. And some of these you have contracts that are pending and coming into place this month for large dollar amounts. So that number is going to jump by the end of May as well. But that walks us through your update. So are there any questions on any of it?
Have any questions?
No questions?
Awesome. Making my life easy.
Okay, thank you for the report.
Yes, ma'am.
Since it was attached, we don't need to receive the report. Okay, so number 4, we'll move on. It's discussion and possible action regarding the LATCF dollars.
So this and then the following agenda item are just something we're going to leave on the agenda for the next couple of months so we can continue having conversation about these things. So your local assistance tribal contingency fund, which is the LATCF, there's $100,000 sitting in the account that is associated with ARPA, so it has to meet the same obligation in expenditure deadlines, but it follows revenue replacement guidelines, so it can be used for anything other than lobbying, any governmental purpose other than lobbying. And so at some point you will want to start obligating those funds. We don't have to make a vote on that today, but it's just a continual reminder that you do have that $100,000 sitting there that we will want to make sure it's obligated by the end of this year.
I'm not in a position at this time to allocate those funds. Do you have any thoughts? Yeah.
Keith, question for you. There's been discussions about the need for adult changing stations.
Yes.
Do we have any preliminary ideas, A, where we could locate that, and B, what costs might be involved?
Not at this time, but we have been in discussion that very topic with the new courtrooms out at JJC. So it's something we're aware of, something that we're talking about. For this campus, we might be able to use some of the rooms on the first floor, and then we can designate other areas as we remodel spaces throughout the building.
Okay. That would be one possible use of these funds that I would like us to consider. And if you wouldn't mind maybe to take a look at what possibilities we could come up with.
I will. I don't know that this has been mandated yet. It has been adopted by Oklahoma City and made a part of their permitting process. So we can look at and see what they're requiring, what they're asking for, and mirror that.
Yeah, using possibly as guidance is fine, but
Sure.
required or not, I think it's a good idea.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If you could take a look at that as possible use of these funds, and then if that's something that's not possible, to meet these time constraints. I have another idea that I'll
Tell
bring
me the-
forward at another time.
Tell me the time constraints, I'm sorry.
We need it obligated by December 31.
Same
Oh, I thi-
guidelines as ARPA.
I think we can do that.
We're government sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keith. I know you can. All right, yeah, that's just a thought on a possible use. We have a need. We seem to have difficulties at times coming up with capital dollars, so this appears to be a good use.
So no action, but that'll remain on the
Yes,
agenda.
ma'am.
And then before we discuss the obligation of the remaining funds, I'd like to hear from Hannah Dix on number 7. The discussion of possible action regarding the need for ARPA funds for the purchase of chair benches in the amount not to exceed $2,500 and for the installation of 2 cameras for public safety purposes in the amount not to exceed $5,864.66. Hi, Hannah.
So we're very, very close. They're doing the last finishing touches on the first floor lobby. And I realized when we were getting ready, we were talking about, do we do ribbon cutting? Do we do when we go to open it? We did not allocate when we did the initial proposal for furniture. And we also didn't think about cameras. So I just wanted to come to you all and kind of talk about that and see if that was something that you all were interested in. I wasn't sure if it would fit the ARPA compliance because we have to have specific furniture that allows for us to be able to clean it for social distancing. It's got to be specific. We can't really just throw any kind of furniture in there. And then the public service concern or public safety concerns with not having cameras in that lobby. It's a large space. It's located right outside of a courtroom. And also has an exterior door. So they place security measures on the door so that no one can just have, free egress or ingress. But I just wanted to bring that to you all and get some guidance on how you'd like me to proceed with that.
Okay. And then Danielle, did you have time in order to review that, or is that something we need to add to the agenda for next month after you've had time to?
More than anything,
review?
our question is less so about eligibility, that you guys have already done a lot of cameras. As long as we're using Digi in the same system, I think that will be fine. We'll need to look quickly at the furniture. I haven't had a chance to, it all came through very fast. The question that we have is what is remaining in the current lobby account? So, and I don't think Hannah knows, is how much is remaining in that actual fund? Is there a need for new allocation, or is there already funds sitting in there? Is the question we are working through right now.
So Hannah, can we defer to
Yeah,
next
that's
month?
great. I just wanted to bring it to your attention and see if there was any guidance you had, because again, I wasn't sure if we had funds left over in that fund or if I needed to make a different request or look at it in my budget for next year. I just wasn't sure.
I'll connect with the owner's rep and get the number on what's left in the account.
Okay. To Danielle, what you mentioned, I was thinking, could the cameras be a change order as part of the
I think they could
the
be.
existing project? With regard to the furniture, I don't recall, but my memory's not great, us paying for furniture.
At this point in time, we have not.
Okay, so that's $2,500. Hopefully we could find that. If we could take care of the cameras as a change order to the existing art project, which I think fits, and find $2,500 elsewhere, but we'll wait and hear back from you.
Yeah, we'll get that actual number that's sitting in the account, find out if we can do it through just a change order, and then can bring it back. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Hannah.
you.
Okay. Do we need a motion to defer? There's no need to. Okay. We'll move on to number 8. The discussion and possible action regarding, oh, no, not 8. Sorry. Back up to our remaining discussion with Danielle, which is discussion possible action regarding the remaining ARPA funds in the 14-15 account.
Yeah, you're almost done with me. Again, we don't have to have a vote on this today. It's an item that we will continue to have just so that we can start having conversations about how to obligate the remaining funds. You have shy of $2 million in there. It's 1.94 sitting in the ARPA account, and that's coming back from things like the HVAC that were rolled back into the account. don't necessarily have to make a vote, like I said today, especially as we're waiting on getting numbers and things like that for the JJC, but just something that we want you guys to continue to start thinking about, that probably next month we'll want to start moving some of those funds, whether into projects that need to be shored up. There might be some shortfalls on a couple of your annex projects, or moving them into the community.
Were you able to get in contact with the person yesterday and make any preliminary
I don't have numbers.
progress?
I do not have numbers.
There's no further discussion. We'll defer number 5.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay, and number 6 is the discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and status reports related to the planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's grant program. Welcome, Nikki.
Good morning, guys.
I have a motion to receive document.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good morning, everyone. So I guess if you guys like, we can start with the grants watch list. I think that's the first thing on there. Do you have an attachment?
It's attached though. You can pull it up.
Pull it up.
Okay. So this is just an update of the grants that we have kind of either submitted or we're waiting to hear back from. So the very first one is our EECVG grant. I've kind of been working on this for a little over a year now. Initially, I thought that we had missed the deadline because it was for last month, but they extended the deadline. So I'm really happy to hear that. So I was really excited to get that email that they extended it to 10/31 of this year. So that allowed us a little bit more time to work on the energy conservation plan that's needed for this grant. And so I'm in conversations with a representative to help us get that energy conservation plan so that we can complete the requirements of that grant. Once again, this grant kind of bleeds into several of the other grants that I have applied for, or the county has applied for, and will help us ultimately reach our larger goal at the end whenever we're applying for the CPRG money, which is the big, large climate pollution reduction money that we're wanting to apply for the new facility, correctional facility. So it's really important for us to kind of meet the requirements of all of these grants that we've applied for, because it's just seed money for us to get the bigger money that we want at the end. So I'm really happy for us to be able to comply with that grant and finish it out. The ODMH SAS grant. We are almost at the end of that. That contract has been accepted. We have been invoiced for the funds, and right now we are working through the process of getting those funds appropriated and transferred into accounts. And so that's really exciting because that's kind of a post-award function that I haven't really got to utilize just yet. So I'm really excited to kind of see how that works out and what that looks like on that post award side of a grant. So we're working through that. So I'm super excited. The opioid abatement grant, the board meets in June, so we'll know if we were awarded that grant, and we can do some great work with our partner in OU. So I'm really excited about that too. The Department of Commerce grant, we were not awarded. The air quality EV chargers grant, that was another grant that we were awarded. That contract is with facilities, and once we get guidance on that, we can move forward. But that's another one of those grants, those energy conservation grants and pollution reduction grants that we're kind of working towards for that bigger goal that we want. So the solid waste, we know that that's a reimbursement, and we're done with that. The juvenile planning grant, we were not awarded that. So we know. The equipment grant, we will get the reimbursement has already started. I've gotten everything that I needed for that reimbursement. It's been sent over to the Department of Education. And because we went over the amount that they allotted us, we will be awarded on the back end, because they want to make sure that they pay everyone out, and any money that they have left over, they're going to award it to the people who went over that amount, so they might not have to take a deficit. So we're still kind of waiting on that, but we should have firm numbers of our reimbursement by the middle of June, end of June is what we're looking. So end of fiscal year is what I've been told. Um, the CPRG, the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, that is that large grant, that larger goal that we're working towards for those other smaller grants, the electric vehicle grant, the EECVG grant. Those are all energy grants, and they're all from the same family. So it's really important that we get those grants so that so the EPA can see that we understand how to appropriate money, and that energy conservation and pollution reduction is a part of our overall strategic plan for the county, and it just makes us more likely to be awarded. So we're working towards that. The 911 Management Authority grant, that's a rolling. We really don't have any projects for that right now, but there is money, there is funding available, so that whenever we are ready, that we can utilize that funding. The RAISE grant, we just don't have a project available right now. It would be great if we did, but we just don't. We applied for a couple of grants over the last couple of months. One with the Department of sorry, the SAMHSA treatment court grant. The county just wasn't ready for that. We didn't have any eligible projects. They wanted us to be a fiscal agent, and we weren't ready for that just yet. The U.S. Department of Labor, the diversion hub. Once again, the county wasn't ready for that grant. The Oklahoma Department of Homeland Security, that's an IT grant. We can apply for that at any time. There's plenty of funding in those accounts. It's just we just need a good project for it. Lastly, the two that we just recently applied for, both were from the Department of Justice. The first grant that we applied for was a contract grant, and that grant is based on outcomes for a certain entity. If we get that one, that would be really, really great. And the next one was from the Department of Justice, and it was a domestic violence grant. And so it would help bolster the domestic violence programs for the district attorney. So that would be another great grant. So those are the grants that we've applied for. And so our grants watch list is continuing to grow. So the upcoming funding sources, what I added and what I've given to you guys is I just added in estimated county administrative fees that we could potentially get from the grants that we've submitted thus far. And so as you can see, we're almost about $500,000 that the county could receive for the grants that we administer. So that's really the only thing that I had kind of wanted to highlight on that is that the county does have the opportunity to accumulate funds to reallocate for whatever it desires, whatever the county's appetite might be. So that's on that. And so I know that there's been conversation, or I've had conversation about basically what we would need to kind of implement the grant request form. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about that and kind of get guidance and kind of see how do we want to implement this form? Do we have ideas, or do you guys have ideas on how we want to implement this form? I know that I'm becoming more busy, and I'm needing a process for people to submit requests to me. And so I know that we've created a timeline in the past, and we said about 30 days is kind of what we're looking at. So, do you guys have input on how we might go about this?
So I have a number of observations and thoughts, whether or not they needed to be included in this, but the 30 days, it's kind of been, that's our preferred. But I think you've been working to try even down to within a week's time frame to try to get some of these things done. And while that's admirable, I think that it could potentially lead to oversight on our part because we're rushed. So whatever time frame it is, whatever the entity, whoever it is, no matter how worthy the project, we need to stick with a firm deadline. So I don't even think that 30 days is probably a good enough time because as I've, and this is a world you've lived in, but as I've worked with Nikki on some of these things, the devil truly is in the details. And so many of these grants, Oklahoma County is just serving as the agent, and we're having to enter into contracts with providers or other governmental entities. And at the end of the day, when these are federal funds, we're the ones that are being audited, and we're the ones on the hook. And so I think we need to slow down. We need to make sure that we have everything in place. The other thing I've observed is that there may be entities that are eligible to apply for these grants themselves, and they're not doing so. And the reason they're not doing so is they don't want the fiscal responsibility. And if they're unwilling to bear that responsibility, I'm not certain that we should either, especially when it's not a program that we're providing directly. So I don't know how we work that. I think, that's a simple question on the form of, are you eligible as an entity? Are you eligible if it's an outside group that's approaching us to apply for this grant yourself? And then making sure the tracking mechanism on the backside, that everything lines up, funds are spent appropriately, because when they come knocking and wanting the money back, it's too late. So uh, those are some things. 30 days, if that's the number, which I think it should probably be more like 45 or 60. And Nikki, I would defer to you or Jessica. You worked in this area previously.
I would definitely agree with 60 just because of the challenges with having to come to policy and governance, receive guidance, maybe have to go back and adjust, direction, and then having to get BOCC approval. 60 days, I mean, is still, pushing it a little, but at least it gives you more time to gather 30 days of information and thoughts to present it and be able to feel, um, strongly that this is a good grant we should be applying for, a partnership we should pursue. I would also like, I'm sorry, do you have any
No,
other?
go right ahead.
I would also like to see and start having communications in regards to internal controls for our grants and what that looks like once a grant is awarded and what that outlined process looks like. Just because, we have a wonderful example with Accenture here in regards to the oversight and internal processes for compliance and follow up and desk reviews. I'd like to see something that mirrors what Danielle has been providing us at Policy and Governance. So that way, once these funds are awarded, we know that we're doing our due diligence and that we can report to the state auditors that this is a grant that we have provided, and through a pass-through organization with a subrecipient agreement, and this is our follow-up afterwards. So that way, when we're audited, we can make sure we've got that to provide.
We'd be happy to work with Nikki on.
Mhm.
We love you.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll definitely, we can connect and give you some of our resources on what's already built out, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great idea.
That was on my list for
Good.
things to do.
Things to
today.
do. Yes. Well, and it'll be a process, and I'm glad that Accenture's here to help us provide some resources. And you're doing a great job, but we definitely have to make sure we've got some internal controls.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, just the process matters. And so I know, you have a lot of people that are reaching out to you and asking you to make changes and things. But once these grants have come to us or to the BOCC, any changes that are requested really need to come back so that we're aware. And if that puts a burden on the people that are requesting your assistance, so be it. Right? You shouldn't be expected to do all their work for them.
Okay.
So just some thoughts that I have in working through a couple of these things and observing
Yeah.
some of the difficulties that Nikki's have.
Yeah, those are great points.
So with the process as we continue discussing it, what are you guys' thoughts on us kind of centralizing the grants or me attempting to create like a repository of some sort? I know that I've kind of had discussions with you, Joe, where do we want to all of the grants that automatically go to the DA for approval? Then do they come to me after that? And then once I understand that the DA has approved the grant or for legality and form, and it comes to me, then do um, I'll track it. I'll track that grant. I'll put it in a tracker of some sort. And then do I then triage it to the BOCC or to P&G at that point so that it does hit that full circle of where it needs to be. And I don't want to say the middleman. I would consider myself the middleman, but I would help just better triage where those grants should go, because if it's, let's say, for example, a sheriff grant where there is less hands-on involvement with me because they have someone kind of doing it already. I know that I could kind of triage that one straight to the BOCC, right? Versus, someone from the DA's office who just pulled up a NOFO and sent it to me and said, hey, can the county do this? Then I know that that needs to be triaged to P&G and it needs to go through that whole entire process.
Right. And to that, there was some email traffic back and forth, and I asked you to get with Mr. Barnes in the sheriff's office regarding those specific things. I mean, David's done grants for years that have impacted his department, and we've not, to my knowledge, had any issues. The same with the sheriff's office.
Yep.
But a central repository is also a very good idea, so that we do know. We can just call Nikki and say, hey, what grants have we gotten? I don't have to remember, oh, wait, David applied for this. So I think there's value in some sort of central list, if you will. But I don't know that where those individuals, some of those grants are so highly specialized that you need to be spending your time on it when they do it and they do it well. So I think it's a hybrid.
Okay.
And I think it's good to have it centralized in regards to back to the internal controls and then the compliance and reporting afterwards, so that David Barnes did a great job in regards to bringing to the BOCC a plan for internal controls for some of the FEMA grants that we're doing. But if you were able to kind of just oversee county grants, especially if they're specialized, they would be the ones that are applying, but at least have a knowledge base or a database that tracks them, and then also lets us know if we're compliant in regards to follow-ups and desk reviews or any other requirements that are required for that grant process. So I think that's a great idea, and you'd be great at doing that and working with our partners just to make sure that since we're signing off on it as BOCC in the chairman's office, that we know that there's internal controls and there's follow-up, and talking about the impact that it's making is also a really great thing to document for future grants.
And whenever I say triage, I just want to be clear that I don't want to step in the way of their process because they know what they're doing, and I get that. I just mean in a way so that I can create that repository so that, if we do, God forbid, get audited, it's not if, it's when we get audited that we internally know what we have out there. And I feel like they're going to probably come to me. And so I would like to have an idea about, what we've applied for, what departments, where they're pulling their grants from, because it's different. All grants are different. People from the district attorney, they have their go-to databases for their grants, just like emergency management has their databases for their grants, just like the sheriff's department. So everyone has like their own go-to for where they've gotten that money from before. And so once again, just the repository to know where we are as a county, I feel is helpful. So if you guys think that that would be helpful, I would love for us to kind of figure out a way for us to kind of make that centralization happen, as we're applying for these grants and as the BOCC and the budget board starts appropriating money and signing off on things. So if we have any ideas on how we can do that.
I think off the top of my head, other than here recently, the biggest grant applications have come from David's office and the sheriff's office, and then some from engineering and planning, or sometimes those are joint engineering, planning, and David working together. I think getting with those people and having a discussion about how to go about creating a master list
Okay.
of grants, and each grant, I'm assuming, has its own specific requirements on how those funds can be spent. They must be tracked, etc. So I think creating the master list is the first step.
Okay. I love it.
And also the DA, since we're working closely with them, especially the last one we just approved.
Okay.
And then I know that Marla and Trevor have been really great with the state auditors department in regards to making themselves available to work through any processes or anything that they would like to see us provide in regards to internal controls. And they said that they could make themselves available if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you. So then with the implementation of the grant request form, that piggybacks into my next thought is, I th- is it, I would like for us to have a grants landing page, much like the ARPA page that Accenture has created for the ARPA funds. But very similar. That's where I would like to keep like the grants request form. That's where I would like to keep a lot of the documents that are needed for me to engage with these departments, right? And it also keeps a tracking for, the county to kind of go by on who's, filling out these requests and what are they requesting. So it's almost like a probe so that we can almost do like an internal assessment of, grants request. So it just helps build that centralization and that repository of grants that we all are already doing. So
Dane's nodding his head, so it's a good idea. Yeah, I think it's great.
okay.
Okay, so on this form, then
Yes, sir.
you're going to insert a question asking if the entity requesting our assistance is eligible to receive the grant themselves.
That's right.
And then you're also going to put something to the effect of no grants will be considered within 60 days of the application deadline. Is that what I understood?
Yeah. And I would like to just, is this something that we're going to be seeing, or is this just something for someone that's requesting to fill out? Is this just for your?
This is what you guys would receive.
What she wants
I
to
would
put on the
also
website.
like, from the grant details, a list of what is required in regards to compliance, like what we should be expecting in regards to those internal controls and follow-ups, and when those deadlines are, if they're 6-month or year reporting, when those are to be expected, so that way we can track them ourselves in regards to what. It's a lot of work applying for grants, but it's even more work receiving them in regards to the compliance and the follow up and making sure you're sharing impact. And so I'd like to know at a glance from this grant form, what are those requirements, what we're applying for, what is needed in regards to MOU, and then what we should expect from your office in regards to reporting on internal controls and compliance for that grant.
So I'll just get with Dane about the webpage. Okay.
And deadlines, what each one of those deadlines are.
Okay.
Kind of a grant summary in regards to that request form of requirements is what I'm looking for.
Okay. That's fair. And then so a blanket MOU from the DA. A lot of the grants that we apply for are collaboration grants, and oftentimes they ask for some type of letter of consent or MOU or something that says that we're partnering, but we're not outlining the true agreement, right? But for you to comply with the requirements of you actually applying for this grant, oftentimes they want some type of letter of commitment, letter of consent. So I didn't know if there was a blanket, something that we could use, that just the verbiage kind of stays the same, that I can kind of insert,
If
plug
we
and
have-
play.
If we have a 60-day deadline minimum for
Okay.
them to get you this stuff, and a letter of intent is a necessary component of the application, we should be able to get that across the board.
Okay, that sounds good.
And it's
I hate a
It's going to
blanket.
be specialized, per grant anyway. So I agree with that.
Okay, just wanted to throw that out there.
If we need to push that to 90 days in order to get to do that step, I'm fine with that as well.
I mean, I think that 90 days is preferable. I mean, because most grants you're going to have some type of letter of commitment or letter of consent stating that us are coming together as partners and we're going to walk through this together, right? So like, I think that 90 days would be
Okay.
preferred. Okay. And then I have on my list internal controls guidance from auditors. So I'm working on that. That's something that I would like to work on as I come together. And then approved statutes from the DA that we can work under. I don't know if we could have a list of approved statutes that we might need. I know we talked about it previously. And so I just wanted to follow up on that to make sure that I'm following up on everything.
That would be more specific to each request, right? And only if we have the.
Okay. 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 Yes, ma'am. Got it.
Yeah, and you can do DA opinion requests. Yes.
Yes. And so, unless you guys have anything else on process, I just like to give you a couple of announcements, and then I'll be out your hair. So do you guys have any more questions on the process for the grants, or any more discussion or additions that you might want me to go with as I implement what we talked about today?
Not right now.
Okay. So the announcements that I have, just a few. Last month, I was invited to Diversions Hub SIM. And what that is a sector intersect mapping project that they did. They wrote a SAMHSA grant, and they were able to bring criminal justice reform entities and nonprofit entities and homelessness entities in to talk about how their sector intersects with other sectors. And so it was a really great optic of how all of these different sectors intersect and help with help each other, help the client. And so it was a 2-day event. It was really insightful. From that, at the end of it, they were able to, as a part of the grant, they have to write a strategic plan. And so I was really happy that Diversion Hub wants to choose our Grants Collaborative as their Grants Collaborative piece for their strategic plan. So really happy about that. Excited about what that will turn into. And lastly, we'll have our Grants Collaborative meeting this Friday at 3 o'clock. It will, if you guys want to know more about it, or if you want to attend, reach out and I'll let you guys know where it's at.
Thank you for your hard work, Nikki.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to number 9, which is discussion and possible action regarding Oklahoma County Information Security Policy. Dane?
Yes, good morning. This is to enlist a discussion on trying to get the county to adopt a information security policy. It's kind of an overarching policy for how we handle data here at the county.
Police developed to, is it NIST guidelines or do you recall?
Probably so. This one we pulled off the state's
Okay.
site and then just edited to mirror what we need or replace state of Oklahoma with Oklahoma County and such.
I thought I printed it off. And did you get a DA opinion on the
Yes.
policy? And it was approved?
Yeah, I submitted it for them. on
Okay,
their
I'm looking
behalf.
at it now.
I just asked if it was
Violates any laws, right.
and it doesn't.
I don't have any questions about it.
Okay.
You have any questions?
Nope.
Thank you for your work on it.
This
All
is countywide, correct?
Countywide.
I'll motion to approve or submit to VOCC this policy.
Let me ask one more question. Since
Sure.
it's countywide, have you shared this with the other elected officials?
We start here.
Okay. So we'll just make a motion in order for you to share that with the other elected officials before it goes to, I mean, if it's countywide and we haven't shared it with anybody else, I just want to make sure that we've done our due diligence.
What's the practical implication for the county?
It's your data. It's all about securing your data.
Right, but
So
it's not a cumbersome deal to follow these guidelines, correct?
no,
No.
it's not.
And
This is stuff these are guidelines that most every organization.
don't you guys still do change control?
Mhm.
Bring it up in change control. Hey, this is something that,
Okay.
and mention it in change control.
Okay.
And
Start there.
put it on VLCC.
Okay. I can do that.
Sounds like you seconded.
Yeah,
All in favor?
I forgot to do that, sorry.
Aye.
Aye. And
No.
then back to number 8, all over the place today.
Password policy,
Yes, the password policy.
same thing.
Okay, have a motion?
Oh, I'll motion to approve this, or,
I did.
oh, I'll second that.
Okay, all in
Same
favor?
thing. Change
Okay.
control.
All, aye.
Yep.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any citizen participation? Seeing none. Board comments?
No comment.
None? No new business? Get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.